You can go ahead and start.
All right. Hi, everyone. I am Diann Shaddox, and welcome to our ET Talks with a very special guest, Chef Virginia Willis. Now, I would like to introduce my co-host. It is DSF President. She is Dr. Darlene Lobel, and I want everybody to realize today is going to be fun. We're going to learn a lot about healthy eating, healthy living, how to live your life to the fullest. So, Dr. Darlene, I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Diann. Thank you, everyone. Well, I am so excited to introduce our guest to you. This is Chef Virginia Willis. She is a James Beard award-winning cookbook author, television personality, content creator, motivational speaker, social media influencer, and might I say, just a delightful person to get to know. So you guys are going to have a wonderful time today. She is Georgia born. I went to medical school in Georgia. Go Bulldogs. French trained chef, and she has foraged for berries in the Alaskan wilderness, harvested capers in the shadow of a smoldering volcano in Sicily. That sounds amazing. And executed the food styling for a Super Bowl commercial seen by over 160 million people. Look at that. That's amazing. Her own personal story is wonderful. Beginning in 2019, she lost 65 pounds, has kept it off for over 2.5 years. Her health journey has been documented in Eating Well, All Recipes Magazine, AARP, and as a cover story for Women's World. She is a chef instructor for Food Network Kitchen. She is a member of the Seafood Watch Blue Ribbon Task Force. Her cookbooks include Fresh Start, Secrets of the Southern Table, Lighten Up, y'all, Bon Appetit, y'all, Basic to Brilliant, y'all, Okra and Grits. So she is also a former TV kitchen director for Martha Stewart, Bobby Flay, and Natalie Dupree, has worked in Michelin star restaurants, traveled the world producing food stories from making cheese in California to escargot farming in France. She has appeared on Food Network's Chopped, CBS This Morning, Fox Family and Friends, Martha Stewart Living, and as a judge on Throwdown with Bobby Flay. So welcome, Chef Virginia. We are so excited to have you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. And always I have to be honest. When I hear someone read my bio, part of it is like, first and foremost, I'm so grateful about the incredible opportunities that I've gotten to experience. And then the other part of me is like, Lordy mercy, I feel so old. I feel like I've been doing this 100,000 years. But you know what? When you can do something that you love this much, let's go for 200.
That's right. That's right. That's amazing. So good. So good. Well, I know you have a lot of tips to share with our audience today. And so I'm going to spotlight you and let you just start sharing, and then we'll pop in with some questions in a little bit, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Thank you so much for having me, Darlene, Diann. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for the folks that are joining us on the web. So you heard this like awesome introduction, and I'm really excited to be here. French trained Southern chef, grew up, my mother was a great cook. My mother still is a great cook. My grandmother was a great cook. I grew up, the kitchen was the center of our life. We had gardens, we had good, fresh food. I always was the person that struggled a little bit with weight, right? That was just sort of the dice that I was rolled, right? And my genetic makeup and things like that. So my dad was a boxer in the Navy. He was, a stocky guy, strong man. But I always grew up with good food. And one thing I want to start with is people insist that so much about Southern food being unhealthy. And I have to tell you that there's my mission in life is to explain to people that all Southern food is not unhealthy. So that is one of the things that I feel strongly about. I grew up with fresh vegetables and butter beans and corn and tomatoes and okra and collard greens and just a bunch of things, and not always fried, right? Not always fried. But I went to culinary school and loved to cook, always loved to cook. And I went to culinary school. And then over the course of the next 25 years, I found myself getting a little larger and larger, right? So what had initially started as a sort of a background struggle for myself with weight, growing up, it grew to be more of a problem. And in 2015, I published this book, and this is the one that won the James Beard Award, Lighten Up, Y'all. And but I got to tell you, I wrote the book. It came out in 2015. I wrote the book in 2013 and 2014. By the time the book came out in 2015, I was already starting to put on a little bit of weight. And then by the time I actually won the James Beard Award in 2016, I had gained a good bit of weight back, right? And so I want to talk about that because it's not, good health is not a destination that you get there and you get to check the box and you're like, okay, it's like a passport stamp. I've been there, right? It evolves and changes. What happened? Well, I feel like that part of what happened was my approach. And that is one of the things that I want to talk to you about today. Some tips and techniques that'll help you get on and stay on sort of a healthy eating path. What happened to me is a whole bunch of life, but that's what happens, right? Life is there. I had a significant, my relationship ended. I moved. My job was sort of like put into a Cuisinart and all jumbled up. I herniated a disc. This is all right before COVID. The disc happened at the beginning of COVID. I was supposed to have surgery. Like it was like boom, 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 boom. And that's what life is sometimes, unfortunately. Life is not always like that. When I looked at my situation, and my personal situation was that I needed to lose weight. When I looked at my situation, I needed to lose 65 pounds. Wow, seriously? I can't do that. And I think that that's what happens, right? That's what happens with so many people. They look at oh, I'm just a little overweight. Oh, I'm just a little overweight. And then when you actually have a conversation with a medical professional about your health, it's like, no, it's actually 65 pounds, Virginia, right? It's not, that was the real life number. And so that seemed overwhelming to me. It was completely overwhelming. It was completely daunting. And so instead of looking at that number, what I decided to do was to head in the direction of healthy and strong, right? That I wanted to be healthy and strong. And so that was sort of the first piece of that. And there's another, what really kicked it, because we all, change is needed in so many areas of so many different people's lives. And we just sort of get on this path and we start going on it. And then without ever correcting, without ever making sure we're following the map right, without all these things. And then a year passes or 2 years passes. What happened with me is when this book came out, after a year, during the year after I got the Beard Award, once again, I had gained a little bit of weight back. A health magazine wanted to feature me in the culinary issue. And I knew I had gained some of that weight back. And I wrote to them, no, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, but it's not appropriate at this time. Well, she emailed me back. No, we'd really love to feature you. We're so glad that, and I emailed back. And so we kind of had this to and fro going for a couple of weeks. And there was a login involved and she needed some information. And she said, well, send me your login information and we'll just let the legal team take a look at it, to make sure everything's okay. It's not about weight. It's not just about weight. It's about your health. Well, I got ghosted. And if for those of you who aren't up to date on that slang, that means that I did not get a call. I did not get a text. I did not get an email. I did not get a thank you for playing. I did not get a, you've passed go, collect $200. I didn't get anything. It was after weeks of her pestering me, right? Nagging me is what I was perceiving it as. She evaporated and it shamed me. And that is what really kicked this off, because it shamed me and it made me realize I have got to do something about this. I have got to do something about my life. And I was looking at my life and I realized that I wasn't happy in my body. And if you can't be happy in your body, then where can you be happy? Now, I know that many of you have a situation that is out of your control, but there is so much in your life that you can control, right? So you can't control a lot, but there is so much in your life that you can control. So what I've tried to start doing myself in my situation is I'm not going to worry about the stuff that I can't control, but I am going to worry about all the stuff or be aware of and concerned about the things that I can. So that's sort of my preface on the who I am and why the hell am I, able to talk to y'all about this today. I am a French trained Southern chef. I am not a doctor. I am not a nutritionist. I am simply going to share some things that worked for me, and hopefully that they can also work for you. So the first thing I'm going to share with y'all some tips. What I decided with the Healthy and Strong was that I needed some life guardrails to sort of help keep me on that path. And remember, like I said, some of this coincided with COVID, and I just knew that I needed to stay as healthy as possible during this. So healthy and strong to me means eating healthy, eating things that are good and good for me, a certain amount of exercise. And that's the first level of it, because for me, healthy was equated initially with losing weight, right? And what happened was, as I started losing weight and peeling back the layers of that onion, I realized that it wasn't just about weight, because I also realized that happiness cannot be found in a number between your two toes, right? That's not where that is. So the first thing that I'm going to say that was one of my primary things about health and wellness is, if I'm bored, I'm going to drink a glass of water. If I'm hungry, I'm going to drink a glass of water. If I am stuck on writing a paragraph and I don't know what to do, I'm going to drink a glass of water. Many of us have started working from home over the past couple of years, and that refrigerator and that pantry is usually just a room away, or in my case, my office is in my kitchen. So it's like 8 feet away. I got a whole refrigerator full of temptations. So instead of automatically being like, oh, I'm bored, what's going on, and open the refrigerator, I go to drink a glass of water. So that is, so often we get hung up in these habits, and that has everything to do with it. So there's a way to get hung up on habits that aren't good for you. And then there are ways to get hung up on habits that are good for you. So if you have this thought that you're hungry, you're bored, you have a headache, you're stuck on a work problem, whatever it is, there's zero problem with starting with a glass of water. And that is something that I always do. I am a stress eater. I'm a joy eater. I'm an everyday eater. I'm a mad eater. I just like to eat. And the whole concept of, well, are you full? Well, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with it. I like the way that tastes, right? My stomach might be full, but my mouth is still happy with that going in there. So what I try to do with that is, other than before I eat breakfast, lunch, or dinner, is have a glass of water. But I try to put myself in the situation where I am eating more. How does that make any sense, right? How does it make sense to eat more if you're trying to like lose weight or get healthy? Well, I eat more of the good stuff, right? So, for example, blueberries, when they're in season, they're about to come back in season in the South again. When blueberries are in season, that is my go-to car snack. I do not get on a road for more than an hour without blueberries. You can only eat so many carrot sticks and celery sticks, but they are good and good for you. But other little nibbles like that are like popcorn. Popcorn is a whole grain, and it is a carbohydrate, but as long as you don't overdo it there. But I can have a couple of cups of popcorn and it satisfies me. Grape tomatoes satisfy me. Cucumber slices satisfy me. I keep clementines. I keep a big bowl of clementines in the kitchen. I keep clementines when they're in season in my car. Some of it, y'all, it's not just about eating. It's the finger. It's the activity. It's occupying your brain and making you're making movement, and you're occupying your brain, and you're getting yourself a snack. So my approach, because I do know that I'm a stressed eater or a bored eater or whatever, I know I'm going to eat. So why don't I eat something that's good and good for me, as opposed to a bag of potato chips, or as opposed to like a piece of cheese, necessarily within reason that's good, but you just shouldn't just snack on cheese. So the second tip that I have about health and wellness and staying on track for a healthy eating path is to eat more, but to eat stuff that is good and good for you. You may as well plan. I think that a lot of times what happens is that people try to overcome these challenges through sheer willpower. And I know that Darlene can speak to this. Willpower doesn't work after a certain period of time. You've only got so much gas in your tank for that. It's about changing your life, changing your patterns, and changing your habit, which I know all about, because that is not what I did with this book, which is why a year after it came out, I had gained a lot of my weight back, right? And then I'm not a spokesperson, I'm not compensated in any way, but my means of accountability is Weight Watchers. So the reason I'm telling you that is I did not punch, I don't go to meetings, but I did not keep track of my points on my Weight Watcher app for over a year. And I might scoop, like I went to Maine and ate ice cream every day. And then I came back and I didn't eat ice cream every day, and I went back down. I went to Greece and I drank wine and ate beautiful cheeses and had yummy, delicious food for a week. And my weight went up a little bit, and then I came back and it went back down. And this was this past year. It's about making those changes that you become automatic, that can help you make the difference, right? So reviewing the tips so far. The first tip is water. When you're not certain what to do, drink a glass of water. The second tip that I'm going to tell you is to eat more, because also if you're eating more, you're fuller with good stuff and there's less room for bad stuff, right? The third tip that I have for healthy eating is I find it helpful to have some protein. I find it that satisfies me, that fills me up. There's a high level of satisfaction and satiety there, and I find that works really well. The healthy eating habits that I have around protein, I eat enough chicken and turkey that I feel like sometimes I'm going to pop out some tail feathers, right? I eat a lot of lean white meat. I eat seafood once a week. And part of that is just getting in the habit. Once again, it's just about like sort of establishing it. If you need to create a formula, a schedule, so that you have these ideas that it's whatever, Fish Friday or Fish Wednesday or Fish Monday, whatever it is. But if you want to just, you might need some help getting you on the game plan, getting you in the game plan and on that right path. So if you need to write down some things for a while and actually create a schedule for it to get you in the habit, to get you over the hump, it's easier to make change when things leave the realm of willpower and become part of the realm of changing your behavior, of cognitive behavioral change, like knowing that this is something you need to do. I hope everyone's having a good time. I hope everyone's with me so much on this. I took my glasses off so I can't see. So y'all, are we doing okay, Darlene and Diann? Are y'all good?
Yeah, no, this is fantastic.
Okay,
Chef
cool.
Virginia, thank you so
I'm
much.
just sitting here talking. So
Yeah.
I want to make sure that everyone is like, hopefully taking away some good notes, but I've got some more tips.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to share those now and then we'll break down, or do you want to break down kind of a little bit what you just talked about and then add some more tips? What would you like to do?
Well, what if you'd like to, we can stop there. If you want to quote unquote break it down, whatever you want to do.
Okay, and then we definitely want to hear the rest of what you have to share for sure. Yeah, I love so much of what you said. You know, one, thank you for your transparency about the journey, because I think it's so true. You know, we tend to think, oh, well, once we've arrived at whatever that looks like for us, right? For you, it was weight loss. For other people, it's different things, right? That, you know, you're there and now you're a master, but that's not really the case of what it is. And so really want to applaud you for being vulnerable, sharing that, and then getting back on and saying, you know what? No, I don't want my life to look like this, right? Because there are absolutely things in our life out of our control. Absolutely. But there are things in our control. And I love what you're bringing today. These are things, folks, whether you're living with ET, whatever you're dealing with, you can drink water. You can eat more of the good stuff, right? You can add the protein into your diet. And these things, it will give you, in situations when we feel like we're out of control in things, what we can control, it helps immeasurably. It helps with your mindset, right? It helps with all of that. So I really appreciate that. And I just wanted to applaud you for that.
Thank you so much.
I agree with all that, because with essential tremor, you do feel like you're not in control of your body. That is the main thing. Because of the tremors, you're like, I can't make it stop. But eating healthy and living your life the right way, you can control. And I agree with all this. When you feel better about yourself, mind and body, you do feel better about living with ET. You have something to control. And Virginia, I have to say, you talked about blueberries. Okay, I have gotten on a blueberry kick, all the way to my grandson even laughs at me. I freeze blueberries.
Nice.
And I eat them like, just little snacks of frozen blueberries. That way they don't ruin in your refrigerator, and you get to just snack on them, and it's good for you, and it makes you feel like you're really getting something special. So that's my little tidbit. When you brought up blueberries, I'm like, oh, I'm known. He calls them little blue balls, because I'm constantly eating those as a snack.
Well, that is such a big thing. I mean, I think that, I have an expression, no sad food. No sad food. Who the hell wants sad food? Nobody. I mean, like, I have to eat this because of my condition, or I have to eat this because I have to lose weight, or I have to eat, I can't. It's usually I can't, right? It's usually like, this is the long list of things you can't have. I would never do well with intermittent fasting, because I'm not that person, right? I need to eat in the morning. The world needs me to eat in the morning.
That's me.
But that is a great thing to talk about, that, Diann, because one of my next points on what I think is so important is flavor, right? Things has to taste good, and food that tastes good and food that's good for you is not mutually exclusive. Right? Like, we have developed this sort of like we've developed this thing that, oh, everything indulgent tastes good. Like, I find it funny. It's like, treat yourself to this fat bomb. How is that a treat? How are you treating yourself? How are you, I mean, believe me, I this morning, I'm not making this up. I helped someone do some grocery shopping this morning. Long story, but anyway, I was in a part of town that's really famous for all the different markets, and it was Buford Highway in Atlanta, and you can get everything on Buford Highway in Atlanta. You can get Guatemalan, you can get Salvadorian, you can get Mexican, you can get Chinese, Korean, Thai, Indian. It's like the UN, right? And I had this crazy like burrito with rice and beans and a poblano and all these things. And I was laughing at myself as I was eating it, thinking, I'm going to go talk about healthy food. But that's it, right? Because I'm not going to eat that for dinner. Right. What am I going to eat for dinner? I had my indulgence today. I enjoyed the heck out of that burrito. But tonight is going to mean that I'm going to eat much more healthfully. It's got to balance out. It can't be one or the other. And that kind of goes along, I think, as Darlene would probably agree with, like the whole willpower mentality.
Yeah.
You feel sad about what you're eating all the time, then it's just a no-win.
Mhm.
No, it's not. You're right. What you said earlier, that you can't will yourself to do something for more than a few days, maybe a few weeks. If you're a really strong person, you're always going to go back to it. It is about, what are we embracing, right?
Yeah.
That's why I love that you said,
world too.
Get rid of the can't list.
Your whole environment,
Yes.
not what you put in your mouth, right?
Right.
So flavor is super important, and like I want to talk about that. Like, so there, and I'm sure you could talk to a little bit more like this. So the thing is that flavor, when people eat foods that are high in flavor, high in umami, which are really savory, foods that are high in spices, foods that are high in capsaicin, which is chili powder, it is proven, studies prove that people have higher levels of satisfaction, higher levels of satiety, and they eat less, right? So if your food has flavor, you're more likely to be satisfied with a little bit less. And then the other piece of it is, of course, is that are plenty of spices and herbs and things like that actually do have health benefits that can increase, help you with digestion, and but without even getting into any sort of medicine, food is medicine piece. If you can be satisfied with what you're eating, that is going to go a long way. So, for example, I might sear a piece of chicken or a piece of fish for dinner in a non-stick spray in a skillet, but I'm going to put like some delicious olive oil on top where I can taste that flavor. I might use an extra virgin, or I might use like a nut oil, which has got some heart healthy properties, or I might use, there's a beautiful farm in South Georgia called Oliver Farms, and they make Benny seed oil, pecan oil, all these incredible oils that are just a cold pressed oil. It's full of flavor. And when I drizzle a teaspoon of that, or go crazy with a tablespoon of that on supper, like I had zero added fat, except for a whisper of nonstick spray. And then I'm going to add a tablespoon of oil on top. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Because that is going to just wake up that food, and it's going to make it much more enjoyable, and I'm going to like it. So that goes back to no sad food. No sad food. That is like super, super important.
Well, I agree. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Virginia, this is what another thing I've watched and listened that you have promoted: subtle changes. I mean, nobody said you have to just stop everything you eat. And I like that term, because that is what a lot of these diets you go on. say, you've got to stop. This is what you can eat and this is what you can't eat. But I love how you say subtle changes.
Little
Just
changes
little.
add up.
They
Little-
do.
Little changes add up. They really do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the brain actually likes small changes. The brain does not like it when we have massive changes. Actually, it's very hard for it to sustain. But when we make those small changes, it can build those new pathways. It reinforces those pathways. So literally, even if you're just adding in, I mean, that was tip number 2, right? Eat more. So
More.
adding in the frozen blueberries, right? Or carrots and
Or
hummus.
any fruit.
Yeah, anything like that, right? And add it in. Do that for a week, right? And see how
Yes.
you do. Your brain actually will respond a lot better to it. So that's a wonderful tip.
I thank you for pointing it out, and I do feel strongly about it. And then I think that one of the things that happens with that, just to sort of to tag on that. So the 5th tip that I have is about waking up and getting off to a good start, right? And on that note, I'm going to add something. Every night before bed, I set up my coffee so that when I come downstairs, my coffee is brewed and ready to go. I am one of those people. I am not the person that has the gooseneck kettle that pours it over at a certain temperature. I am not that person. I am the person that just needs hot coffee when I go downstairs into the kitchen. And so what I have also done, talking about habits, is one of the books that I've read recently that I have found to be very helpful was Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he talks about habit stacking. And habit stacking is when you already have a habit, to help your brain learn a new habit, to stack that habit on top of the habit that you've already got, to stack the desired habit on the top of the habit you already have. So every night around 9 o'clock, I go into my kitchen to set up coffee for the next morning. And that habit that I have stacked into that, so that my brain gets used to this in a slow and subtle fashion, is that I started doing countertop push-ups, right? And so while I have it literally written on the top of the lid, I use a coffee that comes in a Cafe Bustelo, and I have a lid, and on the top of the lid in a Sharpie, I have written push-ups. And I started out with 15, and now I am up to 2 sets of 15 of countertop push-ups. As soon as I set up my coffee, I do countertop push-ups. So it's little things like that, like trying to interject some of these small changes. What happens if I make my coffee and I get upstairs and I go to bed and I'm in bed, I'm like, oh man, I didn't do my push-ups. Well, part of me wants to go back downstairs and do them because that's just the way that I am. But I don't let that happen, right? I stay in bed and I realize that, oops, I forgot, or oops, I messed up, and I'm going to try to do better tomorrow. And that is something that I think that people really struggle with. It becomes this all or nothing. It's not all or nothing. It's little things add up. And as long as you're on the sort of better side of things more often than you're on the not so great side of things, then you're ahead. You're ahead. So one of the things that I think is super important about being ahead, you know, I started talking about coffee, but I find it super important for me to get off to a healthy breakfast. And I saw someone had commented about exercise. When I was dealing with my back issues and the herniated disc and having surgery and all of that, there were times that I couldn't walk up the stairs. I had a back injury about 20 years ago that was exacerbated by stress and my life getting blown up. And but I could walk. And I could walk, and sometimes I couldn't walk more than like basically halfway around the block. Some days I could walk a little bit more around the block, but I just kept walking what I could do when I could do it. And now every morning on the way back, keeping it focused on breakfast, on the way to walk, I eat a banana on the way just so I've got something in my stomach. Every morning, at least 5 days a week, I walk 3.5 miles. And then I come home and I have a really healthy breakfast. I generally have oats because from what I understand about heart health and oats. And something that's super important is that I have 2 fruits and or vegetables in every meal, including breakfast. So my cereal bowl looks like fruit salad with some cereal on top, right? I generally put, I may or may not have another banana, but I'll have an apple and a pear. I might put some clementine pieces in there. In blueberry season, there are certainly blueberries going on in there. So it's like I'm once again, I use the Weight Watchers system. So I have about 23 points for a day. And the only reason I keep talking about, it's easier for me to count to 23 than 23 or 2000, right? Or 1400. It's just a system of accountability. But I sometimes use half of my allotment for breakfast or in the morning hours. I always like to think about the fact that food is fuel for what you're going to do. Food is not fuel for what you've done, right? So I try to put most of my calories in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I eat a little bit less. And then often by dinner time, I'll have 2 green vegetables for supper and a lean piece of protein. And if I'm looking at it in Weight Watcher eyes, I don't look at it in calorie eyes, but if I'm looking at it in Weight Watcher eyes, it might be 3 or 4 points. And it might be because I just poured a tablespoon of olive oil on top of it, right? So I'm sure that y'all know, Darlene, you have lots of good advice about folks eating and when they should put the bulk of their calories.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're right. I love what you said. I actually quoted it again just to put it in the chat there, that food is fuel for what you're going to do, not fuel for what you've done. I mean, it is important to eat after you exercise, but lightly, like you said, like little bit of protein on a salad. So yeah, there's the old adage, right? Eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper, right? And it's very true, because your metabolism is gearing up, and even the way your chemicals are in your brain, right? With the dopamine getting up, it's ready to help the leptin activate and all of that. So you are in a prime position in the morning and in those first few hours of being awake to actually make the best use of your caloric intake. So the more you can front load that, actually the better. So you mentioned intermittent fasting. It's interesting. I know people do it. Sometimes they'll intermittent fast and include that sleeping as part of their fasting hours, right? And then they go through the morning. But I think from a medical standpoint, that's actually not the best thing to do. Actually, you should have water first when you first get up in the morning, but then you should eat within a few minutes, really, to an hour of being awake, to really get your metabolism going and train it that way. Because you're training your body, folks, whether you guys realize it or not. You are training your body by your habits and by what you put in it. And you may think right now, the idea of frozen blueberries doesn't sound good, but let me tell you what, you do it enough times and your brain will start to like it. Your brain is going to start to prefer it over the Snickers bar or whatever it is that you're eating, right? It's
change your buds. Eating healthy will change your health. It will change your taste buds. It's the truth.
Yeah. So this is really, really powerful. So thank you so much.
You want to let some of the people in?
Yeah, let
me ask you this. I've got 2 more quick points. Can I run them?
Okay.
Yep, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right.
Yep.
So on that note, because we talked about breakfast like a pauper, lunch like a prince, and then, you know what I'm saying? King, prince, pauper. All right. So that doesn't mean that dinner is air. It doesn't mean that dinner is air at all. Dinner can still be often what I'll do, like I said, is 2 vegetables or something like that with a lean piece of protein. And to get around that, one of the things that I like to call this is to turn your meals upside down. So I may have beef and broccoli, like a Chinese dish or something, but the first thing I'm going to tell you is it's not beef and broccoli. It's usually broccoli and beef. I have more beef than broccoli. I have more broccoli than beef. And I also include mushrooms. Now, normally we see a big bowl of rice and then the stir fry on top. But what I do is I do it the other way. I put the stir fry on the big bowl of stir fry packed with vegetables on the bottom and a little bit of rice on top. So that's my sixth tip for healthy eating. And then the last healthy eating tip that I want to share with y'all is to measure up. And for me, it was important for accountability, but I find it really helpful. You know what you're putting in your body. So these scoops are super easy to use. And it just, once again, it just kind of becomes habit. And I know that this is a half a cup. And if I want half a cup of rice or something like that, then I know that I'm measuring. We don't eyeball well. I've been a professional cook for 25 years. I can guarantee that y'all don't eyeball well. It doesn't happen. So that's it. So let's let some people in, but I did want to get those. I wanted to make sure to get all 7 of those.
Oh, real quick,
Yeah.
use smaller plates if you want to
Yes.
think you're eating better. I
Yes.
mean, you know, you're
That
still
is-
eating good.
Yes.
Smaller
is
plates
great.
and fill it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the measurement too, as I'm letting
I
people
do.
in. I want to tell you that there's a principle in physics actually that what you observe changes. So simply by observing what you are doing, being intentional about it, the outcome is always going to be different than
Yeah.
what it was when you weren't observing. So
Oh, I love this. I think I need to hang out with you every Saturday.
absolutely, coffee time or tea time.
Okay, everybody. We have Drew, Dr. Drew Christensen joining us, and Virginia. Drew is on our medical advisory board, and he has ET. So, and he is into alternative medicines and eating healthy. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you
hi,
for
Drew.
thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for the great advice. Those are really great tips.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now, Drew, you had brought up tea. So you were talking about Virginia, about doing coffee, and Drew had added to the chat about herbal tea. So that's an alternative. You know, you get in the habit of which one you want for, you know, mornings and stuff. So
Yeah, I like to push tea in people with essential tremor, because coffee can actually enhance and bring out the tremor, make it worse.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So just like you're talking about habit stacking, right? If we're in the habit of that morning coffee, if we can substitute an existing habit for a new one, it makes it easier to incorporate.
Yeah.
Now-
There's so many great beverages now. I mean, not just herbal teas, like if the caffeine is the problem. I mean, there's so many different, you know, like alternative medicine, adaptogens, mushroom tea, mushroom broth. I mean, one of the things that that I do is I keep I call it potassium broth. It's like I make a vegetable stock with my trimmings each week. And if I'm hungry sometimes and I want a little something more than a glass of water, I'll have a glass of vegetable stock. I keep it in a pitcher in my refrigerator, and during the warmer months, I'll drink it cold. And during the colder months, I'll pop it in the microwave and zap it and just have a hot cup of broth with all those vitamins. And it's uplifting without the caffeine.
Yeah, I love that. That's
Yeah.
great.
And I agree. I have had to give up the caffeine, and I like my coffee, so I do decaf and try to get organic decaf coffee if you can, if that's what you need to do. So
Yeah, so a good tip that I give our people in our tremor program is to use chamomile tea. Chamomile tea enhances GABA, which is a neurotransmitter in the brain that's very calming. And so chamomile is a great thing for us with essential tremor to add to our daily routine.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think the part that I love the most about this is how what you're telling me, this experience is it's not brain hacking, but just a sloppy way to put it. But it's really is. It's like if
It is.
my brain needs that and I can do that and it's going to make this better, then why not do it? You know what I mean? If you know what I mean? And I just love this knowledge that's available to us now that our brain needs, you know, that the chamomile is this, and I love it. I mean, it's just really fantastic, and that's so smart. I love chamomile tea, even though I don't have ET.
Yeah, so another really great tip when it comes to food is the science has shown that when we overcook meat or we cook meat at high temperatures, we produce something called harmane in the meat, and that increases essential tremor. It makes the tremor worse. But there's been some really cool studies that show that if we marinate that meat in herbs, so healthy herbs, that the amount of that harmane in the meat is less. And like you're saying, it makes it taste better, right? So if we use like an olive oil with an herbal marinade before we cook that meat, it's going to be healthier, it's going to taste better, and will decrease the harmane in that meat. So that's another great tip for people with essential tremor.
And don't overcook your meat.
Yeah.
And we know the chef likes to hear that too.
Right, Chef?
Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
some of it. Definitely some of it. Yeah.
We had another question. I don't know if you can think real quick about it. What's an easy food meal to cook? Like I have explained, cooking with ET, we don't want to be chopping things and all. Maybe some tips about how to cook easier, you know.
Well, you know, I mean, I know that many of you probably know this, but it's like, I find it astonishing. It's definitely more expensive. It's sad to say, but someone has to be paid for doing the work. But I find it like miraculous, practically how many fruits and vegetables and meal prep can already be found now that used to not exist before, right? Like, you know,
Right.
you can get, I was astonished. I think I was in Whole Foods last week and they sell cooked pasta. You can't get much more easy than cooking pasta. It's like you bring up water to a boil, you add salt if you feel like you're eating crazy, and then add noodles but they're selling literally cooked pasta. So I don't mean to make fun of that at all.
No.
Cooked pasta. But there's so many things like the mise en place that you can get onions, carrots, celery, red onions chopped. If you're not in a bigger market and you want a smaller market, I'll tell you where you can go. A lot of Latin markets have things pre-chopped, right? Because they make a lot of Mexican cuisines, pico de gallo, things like that. So there's always that. I think that I think without having a full knowledge about ET and like how to cook something simple, what I would suggest is because people do have this misperception that good food has to be complicated. And I actually have a very opposite opinion of that. What I find to be very true, and I don't care if you're talking about what cuisine you're talking about, the fewer the number of ingredients, the better the quality of those ingredients need to be. So that is what's going to help you out, right? So if you're just dealing with something where you've got a handful of ingredients like herbs and fish and lemon juice, let's just something like that. So fish that's from a good source, fish that is hopefully sustainably harvested, that's going to make it taste better in the scheme of things. Fresh fish, fresh from a good source. If it's been frozen, it's been defrosted properly and slowly so that the cell walls don't break and exude all the moisture. If you're going to use herbs, you want to use like fresh herbs. Fresh herbs are going to taste a heck of a lot better than dried parsley flakes. And then lemon juice, something that comes out of something alive and still living and vibrant and full of vitamins is juice is going to taste a heck of a lot better than lemon juice that was pre-pasteurized 7 months ago and it's been sitting in a plastic bottle on a shelf. So that, I mean, I can't help with the knife work part, but what I wholeheartedly recommend is that if you're just trying to cook good, simple food, the first word that needs to be in there is that your ingredients need to be good. And I think that, you know, what I try to do with my style of cooking and what I do with my books and my recipes and things like that is to use really good ingredients and just do as little to them as possible, just not to mess them up.
Right.
I agree.
Chef, I have a question, Chef Willis, about the seafood. I've been hearing mixed reports that unless you're near somewhere, and I'm not, where you can get really fresh seafood, frozen is a better alternative because they freeze it right away, and that fresh quote unquote seafood may have been frozen and then unthawed.
That's the truth. You're exactly right. Is it Cher? Can I see that part, Cher? Yeah. So, yeah. So unless you live on the ocean, you're very, very unlikely getting,
really fresh
seafood. What most people get if it's not frozen in the seafood monger's case or in the grocery store case or whatever, is a very high likelihood that fish has been, frozen and then defrosted. That doesn't mean it's bad. I just want to say that doesn't mean that it's bad, but just like anything, it has to be done properly. I'm a big fan. I eat seafood once a week at least, and I have a seafood subscription, and it comes frozen. The company that I work with, and I was a customer before I started becoming an affiliate, but it's called Wild Alaskan Company, and they send me a box, and it's kind of like, y'all remember the you're
making me hungry.
Record store, the record thing from 1,012 years ago.
Yes.
Okay, it's not like that. It's not like that, but it does remind me of that. I'm able to get a seafood box about once a month, but you can move the date. It doesn't just come it just doesn't come like those records used to come. You can move the date. So I get a box of seafood, and I get a mixed bag of white fish and salmon. And it comes, and I can move the date, and I always have frozen seafood in my freezer. I generally will take it out a day or so and let it defrost, but you can cook some seafood from frozen.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, but no, unfortunately, unless you're blessed enough to live like right on the coast, it's pretty unlikely that you're getting.
I don't think Wisconsin's on the coast.
Okay. What is it? Walleye? You got some walleye out there, right?
Oh, yeah, actually I do. I have one other question for you. Our American society for years and decades and whatever has been based on dinner, evening. It's always the big meal, unless you're a farmer.
Yes.
They had it right all along.
Yeah.
Their big meal was at noon.
Yeah.
That's why they called it supper and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very difficult. If you're single, it's not so hard to do the flip.
Right.
Okay. But if you've got a family, there's somewhat of an expectation that your big meal is going to be at night, not at lunch.
Yeah.
And I will tell you honestly, I lost the most weight when I made my big meal at lunchtime.
Right. Well, you're correct about all of that, but the only thing I'm going to say is you can still have a big meal that's not high in calories. You can still have a big meal that's not indulgent or decadent. I very seldom do I not make like a proper dinner. I'm single too now. I make myself dinner every night. Cheese and crackers is not dinner. That is
right.
No. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying the type of meal.
But what I would say is that like you can still have, like if you've got the family and kids to feed or grandkids or whatever like that, like, what I'll do is I don't usually eat carbs at night, and it's it's just not worth it. It's not an,
No,
it's
it's not a good idea.
the trade-off isn't worth it for me. I'd rather have it, I just, Weight Watchers, like 7 strands of spaghetti that I could braid is like half my points for the day. It's nothing but not satisfying. So that's my choice there. But what I do, I still have a proper meal, right? But instead of
Yes.
having potato and green beans, I'll have green beans and cauliflower. And so
That's it.
like super low calorie vegetables, and I make them sure that they're flavorful, and then I'll have a lean piece of protein. So you're definitely right. And I feel that way too. Farmers had it right. They really did. But you can
They
still
did.
have a big meal that's not high in calories.
Well, Chef, it's kind of like you brought up cauliflower. You know how many ways now you do cauliflower you can eat. I mean, there are so many things you can do with cauliflower.
Pizza
And
dough.
it becomes such a vegetable that can be transformed. So you're not eating boring food. Everybody, you say cauliflower, oop, that's boring. No, there is so many things that vegetables, and you can add, like you said, the protein, and it can make a very nice meal, and you feel like you're having something special.
Yes.
Just add that little bit of extra touch to things that you're cooking, and it can make a meal very special. And with your books, we know you've got recipes, and we need to have you back on so you can describe your recipes and help us learn more of different ways to eat.
Yeah, no, well, I thank you for that. So I do have a lot of, I'd love to come back and talk to y'all. I do have a lot of recipes on my website, of course, and that's my name, virginiawillis.com. And it's been kind of fun for the month of February. I've been doing this whole love yourself. So love yourself with a different little something every day. And I've been including like different health and wellness tips. Because it's not just, health and wellness just isn't what's on your plate. It's what's in your head. It's what's in your heart. And it's what's in your belly, right? Like wellness and self-care just isn't about weight loss or tremors, frankly, right? Like it's not just one thing. It's like the whole organism. But I do, I've got some recipes there on my site, and then I've got my little books, and this is a little booklet that I did recently, and that's the one that y'all can win if people sign up. And then it's not for sale yet, but y'all, I'm about to reprint this in paperback. So it should be, y'all is going to be available in paperback within the next month.
Okay, good. Is that the one you'd recommend to people?
Yeah. That's it's a full on like proper cookbook, and it's 100 recipes, 10 chapters. Lots of great sort of healthy eating advice. And it's the one that won the Beard Award. So yeah, I'm proud of it.
Chef Willis, do you have a healthy recipe for biscuits and gravy?
Okay, this is exactly the truth. Yes, I do.
Really?
Yes. I do. Because if I'm using, this is a great question for that. This has to go back to that Southern eating isn't
right.
Doesn't have to be unhealthy. My biscuit, my big cat head biscuit, is about 6 points in my life, in my Weight Watcher world.
Wow.
It's about 6 points of biscuit.
It's nothing.
Ma'am?
That's nothing.
Right. Okay, if it's a bigger biscuit, it might be 8 points. But where I believe on that is I would rather have a good biscuit that's delicious and wonderful and satisfying than some fake biscuit, right?
Tasteless sponge.
Tasteless biscuit, right? Like I see in the health group sometimes, it's like on Facebook, people will be like, oh, I had a sugar-free cake mix and a can of Zero Sprite, and I made a cake. And I'm like, no, you made a bucket of chemicals. You didn't make cake, right? So healthy, what's healthy to me is to have the bread of my people in my body. That's what's healthy for me.
And it's gonna fill you up more too, probably.
I know. And then like the gravy thing, like if you can make gravy, you know, you can use flour, you could use whole wheat flour. Okay. That's going to increase the nutritional density.
Yes.
Okay.
Flour, which is gluten-free if you've got a gluten-free situation on. If you use homemade stock, it's practically calorie-less. Like gravy also has this like crazy misperception that it's just, you know, molten butter flavored meat bits, and it doesn't have to be. It is often, but it doesn't have to be. So yeah, now you got me.
Of course, I'm the South. You can use water in gravy. You can use coffee in gravy. You do not have to use,
Cream
like you
and
say,
butter
you
and
don't
everything.
have to make it so heavy.
Now you got me wanting red eye gravy with that biscuit, Diane.
Oh, that sounds good.
I don't think there's a way to get around the sodium content on country ham. I don't think that
No,
that's not
no, that's good.
But
And
it's one of those pleasures, like you said.
yeah, life's too short
Also-
for sad food, right? Life's too short for sad food.
right.
And so
that's it.
like my burrito today, I know that was my woohoo for the day. And tonight, you know, I'm just gonna have to, you know, be more on the path. And that I think is the most important thing for me, is that it's not all or nothing. It's not all or nothing. Little things add up. And as long as I can check the boxes that need to be checked, and I have more checks than X's or more checks than zeros, I'm doing okay, right?
Yes.
That's it. That's it. We just got to do the best with what we have to do, the best we can with what we have.
Amen.
That's it. And if you eat bad, don't get on to yourself.
Right.
Just go on and, you know, keep moving on. Pay attention to what you eat next time. Virginia, I also want to tell everybody, you can go to follow at Virginia Willis on Instagram. So please join Virginia on Instagram, and then you will get all the information to get her cookbooks and go to her website.
Yes. And helpful tips when you follow her Instagram page. too.
That's it. And thank you so much, Virginia, being here.
Oh gosh,
It's
y'all, I
been
had a great
fun.
time. I'm so grateful. Look, this is
Should I
something
go this way?
for the gentleman here, but you're a doctor, so it's okay. I always say this: if a postmenopausal French-trained Southern chef can lose 65 pounds and keep it off and make these changes in her life, then you can too. And I'm
That's
here.
it.
I'm here to be your cheerleader.
I
That's
love it.
awesome.
I love it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, y'all. Thank
Such a
you so much.
pleasure.
Hey, bon appetit, y'all.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, Diane.